All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. I nearly didn't hit the record button. Nearly.
Have you checked? Is it recording?
It's definitely recording. Yeah.
Definitely?
Definitely.
Sure.
I promise.
Is this like a
Do you want me to
actual
turn
promise?
the screen so you can...
No, you know. We build on
You're
trust.
willing to gamble that in an hour and a half time there's something for people to listen to.
Well, I'm not a
view.
gambling man as such, but...
That's not true.
I'll roll with it.
I've seen you at a casino night. You're known to have a flutter, as it were.
What can I enjoyed Vegas.
And then you put some bets on. Do you know what I mean?
I enjoyed Vegas.
You definitely bat your eyelashes, don't you? You're one of those. I
do a
can see you doing it. I was just, stop it.
Mm.
You know, I know what you're like. I've been on stag do's.
There was a dude in Vegas though, one of the table workers, one of the poker guys.
Yeah.
He's just a massive dick.
Yeah.
Like I was Ash and
You were
Alex.
Ash?
Ash and Alex were playing on the table, and I was just stood behind him.
Yeah.
Um,
Looking ominous. You were the muscle.
and I got my phone out,
Nice.
and you're not allowed to have phones at the table.
Right.
It's no big deal. If he'd have just said to me, you know,
What did he do to you, Jake?
he just properly went off. He was like, "You need to leave the table." He's like, "You no phones. Leave the table now." And I was just like, "All right, mate. Like, calm the fuck down." And then
Next thing you know, you got the security tasing
is
you.
it Ash or Al? I can't remember what they did. I've got notes of it somewhere, but like,
Did Alex tell you to go?
well,
away as
one of
well?
them,
I
one of
picture that
them
being
did something, or they asked a question because it was like our first night and we hadn't really played at the tables a lot.
Okay.
And again, the guy just went off, and it was just like, mate, just because you hate life, don't be taking that shit out.
No,
on
but
us.
you've worked in service, right? How many people like you do you think he's had to deal with that day? That some little rube who's never been in town before that thinks it's okay to be on his phone around a poker table.
Yeah,
When everyone
No.
knows, Jake.
exactly, exactly. All you need to do is just say, "Listen, buddy, you can't have your
To
phone."
be
at the
honest, I
table.
reckon he just looked at you and was like, I don't like
I don't
the
like
cut of
this
his jib.
prick.
I don't like the cut
Do you know,
of his
a
jib.
lot of people do. A lot of people do look at me and they think, "I bet this guy's a bellend."
Well,
I
look,
don't like
I didn't
him.
like you when I first met you. And
We
now we're doing a podcast.
famously did not get on well.
No, but we found out that was due to one duplicitous.
There was a
little
bit
scrope.
of there's a bit of pot stirring.
Yeah.
There's a little
definitely.
bit of he said, she said.
Also, you were just a bit of a knob.
As were
And
you.
so was I, yeah.
As were you.
Yeah.
But we've
But
grown.
look where we
And
are
now I'm less of a
a
knob.
couple of nearly 200 podcast episodes later. It must be now. I actually don't know.
We should check
By
because
the
we
way-
should celebrate the
I
200th.
meant to tell you, we're on season 6 now.
Yeah. Oh, did we start a new season?
Yeah, I just did
You
it.
just
Because when...
no rhyme or reason. You just went. We've reached
do
the
you know
limit.
why?
About 40 or something.
Because when I'm uploading the episode to our hosting site, it's just a little bit behind the scenes action for the
Sure.
for the fans out there.
Let them in.
It asks you to put what season,
Yeah.
but it tells you what you're up to so far. So it will say you're season 5, and it was episode like 60.
Okay. Yeah. We
So
kind
I
of
was like-
kept on that for a while.
Yeah, so I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to start it again. Jake's not going to know.
So
this. It
welcome
doesn't
to
matter.
welcome to season 6.
So now actually on YouTube as well, I've got the
Season 6, episode 1.
Yeah, there's 2 in there now.
Welcome to season 6. I hope you enjoyed
Yeah.
the first episode.
Yeah, I've season 6 back better than ever. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's a strong season so far.
So far, I agree.
2 in,
Yeah,
1 and a bit
this will
in.
be our third.
Is this our third?
It's our third.
What are you lying to me? Come on, man.
This is the third one.
So, I mean, you were right. I
'Cause
didn't notice.
The only reason I know that is because I'd made a mistake online that I'd on like all the podcast apps I'd put it as season 6, the first episode, but I didn't do it on YouTube. But you can change it, so it's now all in.
It's all done.
It's all done. It's sorted.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I didn't notice.
No, I knew you wouldn't.
Skipped over my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite, and not, again, I'm quite famously inattentive. I don't know I can't think of the right word, but
It's weird though.
non-observant.
Because you are quite a details guy. Like you've got this amazing thing that like I imagine at work you're like hyper focused. You're the complete opposite at work. I can imagine.
There's
So
moments.
it's almost
of
like there's a switch.
there's moments of hyperfocus, and I don't.
Yeah.
I definitely have a professional mode.
Yeah. But do you suffer from the same issues at work?
Yeah, a little bit. I forget things a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do forget things a lot.
Yeah. You definitely shouldn't smoke weed then.
I don't see how it would make a difference.
You'd be amazed.
I don't see.
I've heard.
So you've heard that.
So I've heard.
Allegedly,
Allegedly.
according to reports.
What reports? I've not seen any of these reports. I
Just
don't know
word
if
gets
these
back to
reports-
words gets back to us
Yeah.
for the pod. We researched for the pod.
Yeah. We get emails. We
Things
get
come up.
correspondence.
Things come up.
Correspondence.
Correspondence.
Yeah, that's a word.
Should we do a little early plug for where people can send their correspondences?
Why not? You tell them.
You can correspond with us.
Correspondence.
Correspond is right. You can correspond with us.
Correspond was perfectly fine.
Yeah, there's no need to emphasise the ont.
No, other than just being a dick.
It's what I'm good at.
And do you know what? I'm okay with it.
All those people that saw me and thought, I bet he's a bit of a dick, they were right.
Yeah.
Look,
You're also a nice guy.
It was a good call.
You
What's
care
that?
about people.
What's that tweet? I really like the tweet. You know that one that was like, the haters said I couldn't do it, and they were absolutely right. That was honestly a great call from the haters.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't even try.
So you can correspond with us.
Yeah.
You can email us
It'll be here on the screen.
CrossingSwords19@gmail.com.
Yeah.
You can reach us at Twitter @SwordsCrossing. You can reach us on Facebook, just Crossing Swords Podcast. You can reach us CrossingSwords_podcast on Instagram, CrossingSwords_podcast on TikTok.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You kind of, I'm providing the detail and you're providing the sex appeal.
Yeah, well, you did it last week. Graciously.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you did.
I do not remember that. Oh, I vaguely have a recollection.
You were licking.
I was fondling the graphics.
And you were like putting your tongue out there.
I was fondling the graphics.
That's on the internet
for sure.
now. Someone who's skilled with Photoshop
it's a lot worse.
could do something.
It's a lot worse.
I've got a lot worse.
You don't even need Photoshop. I think
if you ever get married, the picture that you know I have of you and one of our other married friends on a night out will surface.
I don't know this one.
It involves the two of you in a car, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'd listen. You can tell. I'm fine with it. I embrace my past.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So what? Teabagged a car.
Nothing wrong with a bit of public indecency.
So what?
Especially outside of school. That was
hey.
Outside of playground.
Those kids got to learn.
What? This is what you do with your car.
I think it was outside. Was it outside the? Was that
a
place
women's
a women's
gym?
Yeah. Was that still a gym at that point?
That's almost worse.
How's that worse? How's that worse than kids?
Because I don't know. It's sinister that it's outside a women's.
Surely it's quite
It's similar then.
It's relieving that a woman would think finally a sexual predator who's more interested in cars than women.
What I found worse about it
not that I'm a sexual predator
was that I was making light of it by being like it was outside of school, and then the realization that it was actually already
it was outside. It was actually outside a women's only gym.
So it wasn't great to begin with.
It was not good.
No. Oh dear.
I'm not holding up there as a proud moment. I just embrace my past.
Brilliant.
It's just
it was hilarious.
I'm not ashamed.
I don't even remember how it happened. I just remember it did happen.
I think it's safe to say there was a substantial amount of alcohol involved.
Yeah, well, it was Croydon.
Yeah. Anyway, you can reach us at YouTube as well, Crossing Swords in the name of the episode, link to which will be in the description to every episode we listen to.
This episode.
It's not been, it's been a fun amble.
Yeah. What do you fancy talking about?
Is there anything pressing? Has anything happened?
Well, there's the recent events in the Commons. I don't know if you've seen any of it.
I've been vaguely aware of it.
So yesterday, I didn't know these things existed, but there's something called an opposition day. All the opposition parties have one where basically they get to set what the debate is in the Commons and put something forward to be voted on. The SNP yesterday had their opposition day, and they put forward a
ceasefire thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A call for a ceasefire.
Call for a permanent ceasefire, basically. Labour, or most of the Labour MPs then wanted to be able to vote for it, but because it was the SNP, Keir Starmer was like, no, we don't vote for their policy. So he was in a tough situation because all the MPs were like, well, we're going to vote for it. So he was in a position where apparently even two of his cabinet ministers were going to resign. So the allegation currently, but there's not a lot of proof, is that he then lent on Sir Lindsey Hoyle to allow him to break precedent, which is that normally on an opposition day, the only people that can provide an amendment to whatever
the opposition.
On the opposition day, it would then be the government. The government then gets to put an amendment, and then there's a vote.
I mean, I didn't know this. I don't know any of this.
No, me neither. But then there's a debate that happens on which one we're going to do, and then they go and vote for it. But this time, Sir Lindsey Hoyle allowed Sir Keir Starmer to put a further amendment in for there to be 3 things to vote on.
I knew that there was like a dodgy amendment, an amendment that wouldn't normally be allowed.
No, traditionally, and apparently it has happened before, but it's not the done thing. But normally, Labour in that situation wouldn't have got to have done that. But because of that, the SNP were then livid. that their opposition day basically has been hijacked. They then withdrew their cooperation and refused to vote. The Conservatives then did the same, and then the Labour MPs all went and voted, and obviously all went and voted for their own amendment. So then that's now passed in Parliament. So the SNP and the Tories are now up in arms saying that
shouldn't have been allowed.
it's been like they've been overruled by the Speaker, basically, that the power of Parliament has been overruled by the Speaker.
And we touched on this earlier. Neither of us were ever particularly big fans of Lindsey Hoyle as Speaker of the House of
No,
Commons.
I mean, not like anything. He just didn't, I think, compared to John Bercow, who was quite a commanding presence in the Commons, and you knew he was there, and he was really entertaining. So I think just anyone following that up was going to struggle.
And I think from the bits I've seen of like PMQs of since his time in the House, I don't think, because I think I've got to give credit where it's due to John Bercow, however you want to say. I think he was pretty good. Obviously, a little bit of bias did come through from time to time, but I think he was generally pretty good at casting aside his bias and being fair at calling out both sides, opposition and government.
What I would say to back up what you're saying is actually, if anything, he went against what his traditions would have been, because he was a Conservative MP before he was the Speaker of the House. And he's the first Speaker in history to not be given a lordship afterwards, because he famously opposed the Tories on multiple things. He tried to hold them to account over the proroguing of Parliament, all that sort of stuff. So because of that, he didn't become a Lord. So that's a...
Yeah, and I think Lindsey Hoyle's been okay at getting rid of his, but I don't think he's shedded it completely.
I think my main issue with him is he doesn't seem to have a real control over
what he'll do is
he'll
do that thing. It's like watching a referee who's lost the game. He'll do that thing where he's a referee. What it is it's like watching a referee who's lost the game, who's too scared to give out a red card.
Yeah.
So like when shit kicks off and people are saying things they shouldn't be saying, what he'll do is he'll go, "Oi, none of that."
Yeah.
Or I'll kick you out, and then they carry on doing it, and he just,
Do you think
the only time I think he's ever kicked, when he kicked out,
I think he's done it once.
I wasn't too happy when he kicked out. I can't think of her name, but the Labour politician who called Boris a liar, and he went, "You need to take that back," and she was like, "Okay, but here's the proof that he lied. I've got it. It's pretty public knowledge." And he was like, "No, you got to take it back." And then I think we spoke about it on the podcast. It was like, well, if he's a liar, you've got to be allowed to call that.
That's the flaw of the respectability side of our politics, that there's only certain areas you're allowed to go to. And it means that, like Boris, they get away with not murder, but not far off it either. Although you wouldn't put it past him in his coked up
Boris
state.
wanted to have a journalist beat someone up, didn't he? Allegedly.
Yeah, he said, it was like, yeah, we'll have someone's legs broken or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So yes, you have that. Yeah. But in general, I don't particularly have an issue with Lindsey Hoyle. I just don't think I feel like
he's not strong enough.
The only control he has is because of the position he has, not because he has a level of control over Parliament, if that makes sense.
No, whereas Bercow, order.
Do we want another
I
one?
want it again.
Oh, I've missed it.
I've missed
It's
that.
been a long time since we've used that soundbite.
And do you know the other one I love that we had for a while? And I don't know whether you've got it. I don't give a flying flamingo what you think.
No, I definitely don't have that anymore. No, that's been replaced. I think it got replaced by this.
The thing. I love that. Angela Bassett.
How that's still on the soundboard.
That's been like a year now, right?
Yeah.
That was Oscars last year.
You were obsessed with it.
It was in my head for
weeks. Yeah.
You know, people say
there
that
was at least 3 podcasts in a row where it got played just because you wanted it.
People said, "Oh, that lives rent free in my head. That lived rent free in my," and it had squatters' rights. It was up there so long.
I'm expecting a text from you tomorrow morning going, "Fuck you."
Angela Bassett.
But what were we talking about?
Angela Bassett doing the thing.
No, not Angela.
Oh, we were talking
Lindsey
about
Hoyle.
Lindsey Hoyle. Okay.
What we can. Do you not think it's an overreaction?
What?
Because his explanation since, he had addressed Parliament almost immediately afterwards. He was like, my intention was for a subject that's clearly emotive to give as many options as possible to try and find a solution for this problem. That's why I did it. Obviously, I've made a mistake. I apologise. But in my mind, all he's trying to do is help the situation in Israel and Palestine. That's his intention.
In terms of...
I don't see how he personally has circumnavigated democracy or overpowered Parliament.
let me ask you this as an almost counter, not quite counter. From the position of, proposing a governmental, a universal call for a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Is there that much nuance to that? Surely that's an
I
almost
think it's just
yes
in
or
the
no
wording,
thing,
isn't it? It's like
it may be, but surely
Yeah.
that's a yes or no thing. Either we call for a permanent ceasefire, or we don't. Surely that's an either or. Or am I being too simplistic? Am I taking something that should be more nuanced and saying
I think
it's
as soon as politics are involved, of course it's more nuanced because there's so many moving parts in each party that what they want for the situation is going to vary. Even if it's all the same end outcome, which is a ceasefire, what they want that to look like is going to be different between parties.
But surely that only looks like either they're shooting or they're not.
Well, I think it's just, and I don't understand why there's a difference, but like Sir Keir Starmer doesn't want a permanent ceasefire, he wants a humanitarian ceasefire, whereas the SNP want a permanent ceasefire and the Tories want some other form of ceasefire. I don't know why they want to do that, but they do. What was
That's
that?
spooky, wasn't it?
The fuck?
Something in the recording room just fell over.
I don't even know what that was.
Normally when something hits the floor like that, I just assume it's your boxers have given out on holding up your massive schlong.
Yeah, it's just my
and
knob
it's just
hitting
falling.
the floor.
But that didn't sound heavy enough.
No,
That sounded quite light. I wouldn't have thought that was just schlong.
no, that was weird. Moving on.
And can we?
Do you want me to
Are
investigate?
we still on Lindsey Hoyle?
Yeah.
Okay, let's stick on Lindsey Hoyle for a bit.
God, we've got sidetracked so easily.
Welcome to my head.
So, like, for me, the people at fault here, there's three different people. There's Sir Keir Starmer because the problem
Trying to
is,
hijack the opposition day.
well, that and the fact he's had ample opportunity to call for a ceasefire beforehand, but only is now because his party's forcing him to. So I have an issue with that because why the fuck don't you want a ceasefire to begin with?
You don't want to call for a ceasefire, but you're happy to jump in on someone else doing it and change the way they're doing it.
I have a problem with Stephen Flynn that he couldn't put the politics aside and just be like, well, we'll just, whatever happens,
let's get a ceasefire, yeah. Or let's call for a ceasefire. We're not going to get one necessarily.
Penny Mordaunt's the one who officially withdrew the Conservatives from helping, but presumably that comes from Rishi Sunak. So I blame Rishi Sunak for, again, playing politics and taking it as an opportunity to get at Keir Starmer and make him look bad to fuel the fires against Keir Starmer to try and turn things around. All of them have tried to use it, and I get why the Tories are doing it. Don't really get why the SNP are doing it, because if their goal is just to get a ceasefire, why not vote? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe they don't want to vote on anything that isn't a permanent ceasefire or a call for a permanent ceasefire. Maybe they don't want that legroom of humanitarian or whatever. Maybe they
sometimes the reality of a situation is you take what you can get. So if we can save some lives for now, and then
but the reality of the situation is all we're doing is calling for it. Ain't going to make fuck all difference to Israel. They are not going to stop doing it.
Quite.
So that's my issue, is that ultimately
we're
all. It's like your mates beating someone up, and all your other friends have a discussion on whether they should get involved and ask him to stop. Not stop him, just ask him to stop. And they have a discussion going, "Oh, do you think we should ask him?" Well, you didn't say that, and we all know that when he's seen the red mist, you can't get through to him. He's just going to beat up the bloke till he's finished, and we all know that. It ain't going to make a blind bit of difference.
And we keep handing him new baseball bats to hit him with.
And all we're handing him the thing and going, do you think we should maybe tell him to give it a break? And we're all, and then you cut in and go, no, I don't think we should ask him to give it a break. We should just ask him to stop. And then someone else going, no, let's just
5 minutes.
And then, but realistically, we know all we're doing. And in the meantime, in the time that we've taken to talk about it, we could have asked. And at the end of the day, we say, come on, mate, leave it off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And we know it's not going to make a difference. So why we're dilly-dallying about it, why we're umming and ahhing about it, I don't know.
No.
Was that an okay analogy? Does that work?
No, it does. It definitely works.
Okay.
I think I helped with the baseball bat thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we are definitely... it's important to remember that we are actually arming them, and that's why we don't necessarily
apparently we're now considering stopping selling them arms.
That's good.
So, like, we're still going to sell them arms, but we're going to think about it.
I mean, if you're selling... Realistically, that's what it boils down to, isn't it? If you're selling someone guns, you're not going to then say, oh, don't use them. You're going to be like, yeah, I'll tell you what, you want to start on them lot and all here, I've got some more guns.
I mean, the Rafa situation's pretty fucked, isn't it? They're saying...
it's horrendously bleak.
That they're basically going to invade it, aren't they?
Yeah. It's horrendously bleak.
I mean, and this is what it was always going to come to. It's what the IDF's plan has been all along. It's just to kill as many Palestinians as they possibly can. I mean, how far should we be willing to go to stop it? Do you know what I mean? Like, do we send... Because the problem is, like, I don't think we could send troops if we wanted to. I don't think we got enough troops to, like, invade Israel. I mean, can you imagine the criticism if this was, like, a bigger platform I would get for saying, do we consider invading Israel? Let's take back the Holy Land.
I don't think it's about... But definitely, when you look at all the reasons that we've deposed governments and dictators...
Of any of the reasons that would be worth doing.
Particularly in the Middle East... And then you look at what's happening there. There's one actually pushing for a genocide. And when some of the cabinet ministers in Israel, and I've not been following it like extensively at the top, but some of the cabinet ministers, most of them have been quite vital and outright calling for the genocide. But some of them have tried to be a bit tactful and tried to say, you know, oh, it is about, you know, they've stuck with the line about it's about self-defense, or they've tried to say something else. Oh, it's about, you know, we want some kind of humanitarian, or whatever. They do try and blag their way. There's not many ways you can, but then, you know, Netanyahu's at the top just going like, no, and kill them all. Yeah. That's a reason. If you know,
why is our media defending that though? That's what I don't understand.
Shocking, isn't it? But given what we have done in the past in the Middle East, that for me, calling for an outright genocide of, you know, a couple of million people, that is as good a reason as any to go in and depose a government.
Why we aren't?
I'm not saying that's what we should do, by the way, but I'm just saying when you look at it like that.
Yeah, what the things we have invaded for.
Yeah, the things we have stepped in for.
But I think that just shows, like, if you want to go a bit conspiracy, what war is actually about. The war's about making money. It's not about saving lives or liberty or any of that shit. It's just about making money for very wealthy people. So that's why they killed Kennedy.
I mean, it may well be.
Yeah. Just saying. Luckily, we're not a bigger podcast. Otherwise, I might be
next.
Be on the grassy knoll.
Wait, you're the one doing the killing? No, is that what you're gonna?
Didn't he die on the grassy knoll?
He was in the car.
No, but over the grassy knoll, weren't it?
No, he was in the car, and then he got taken to hospital.
Did he?
Yeah.
What's the grassy knoll?
And then he died in the hospital.
I thought he was in a window.
Why is he in a window? He's in the car. He's driving to Dallas.
Not the assassin.
Well, it depends what conspiracy theory you believe.
Oh, now we're talking.
There's theories that say that there was more than one shooter.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
So,
I've heard it's the CIA.
I mean, look, they've done some fucking dodgy shit.
Yeah. Didn't they do like MK Ultra?
Yeah, and they fed drugs to black communities.
Really?
Yeah.
What, just to see what happens?
A little bit, and also because it was like it keeps them oppressed.
Do you know what blew my mind?
Poor.
There's a pharmaceutical company in Germany, because you hear these stories, don't you? Like, what's the is it Dolce & Gabbana? Which is the one that did the Nazis?
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss, that's the one. Sorry, Dolce. But Adidas, Nazis.
Volkswagen. Well, Volkswagen did a thing they did an advert recently. I think it might have been for the Super Bowl, and they did like a black and white, or let's remember our history. And when it started coming up, there were a lot of people online kind of going, I'm not sure. I'm not sure your history is what you want to
be bragging.
They're like, yeah, no. Do you remember when we did this? Like, I remember when you did something else.
But such efficient vehicles.
Yeah. Then it was the Top Gear one, wasn't it? Where they did a Volkswagen ad.
Oh, did they?
And I genuinely they had to. It was Jeremy Clarkson and James May were doing about 3 or 4 ads and submitting them to the Volkswagen team, quote unquote, submitting it to the Volkswagen team who'd come in and watch it and go, that's ridiculous, we're not airing that. Yeah. And they ranged from really high octane mental ads, and then they did one where it was just driving through the country and whatever, and the guy just keeps driving past the station, driving past the fuel station, and their tagline was like, the Volkswagen Scirocco or whatever, from Berlin to Warsaw on 1 tank of fuel.
Do you know what? I hate that I can't watch Top Gear anymore. I used to love watching the specials, like the Africa special. There's one where they do the Nile. That might be the Africa one.
Yeah, they go looking for the source of the Nile.
Yeah. There's so many really good ones, but I just can't fucking stand Jeremy Clarkson. I really can't stand him.
I use his thing as a meme quite a lot.
Oh, what I didn't do well in my GCSEs and now I'm a millionaire.
No, his not his annual tweet.
Year,
not
man.
his annual August tweet.
Every time.
No, his sometimes my genius scares me.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes my genius.
Or my genius is scary, or whatever it is. Yeah. I use that meme.
And
quite a lot.
he is funny, but he's a horrible person as well. Sadly,
quite entitled. I think there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but like what he wrote about Meghan Markle was just.
Yeah, he was another one who had a thing against.
Yeah,
Meghan Markle.
Maybe she turned him down as well, just like Piers Morgan.
It was like just a queue of really
honestly, it's like a sad
old white British men just asking him out.
Prince Harry online, because there's been these rumours that like Prince Harry's trying to get back in, like he said, with the King being unwell, he's happy to help if he's needed, and like Piers Morgan was like, get fucked basically, and it was just like, mate. She turned you down.
Imagine if you've gone away for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think you and I are both in agreement that he went away for pretty good reasons.
Yeah.
But imagine you went away for any reason, and then your dad was ill, and you turned up going, "Look, I know we've had our differences, but you're still my dad, and I'm happy to help out if I can."
Yeah.
And then the reaction was like, "Why don't you fuck off, you selfish prick?"
Yeah.
A bit odd.
Yeah. But I just find it baffling that a family that has Prince Andrew being rehabilitated.
Oh, it's shocking
that Prince Harry
is taking the stick.
Yeah, that all the man did was look after his wife.
How good would it be? I mean, it would cause unbelievable shit, and I know there's a lot of politics involved in the royals and the media and stuff. But how good would it be if someone asked Harry, if he sat down in an interview and someone asked him about the troubles or the difficulties, and when, are you being a bit, is the media being unfair on you, or have you given them cause? If he just went, my uncle's a nonce, and you're asking me, and to just left it at that.
Yeah, and just walk away.
It would cause so much shit that he would have my undying...
It would.
I would follow him into battle.
Do you reckon that would be the end of the royal family?
If he took the crown and we went back to a monarchy, I would follow him into battle. If he wandered through France,
Jake becomes
on a horseback.
Monarchist. Where's God Save the Queen? Where is it? I know it's here somewhere.
Do you think the king would be impressed with this level of...
No,
it's clear. I didn't realise it was the new one or the old one.
No, it's the old one. I haven't updated it, bro.
King.
But like, for a serious note, let's hope the king. I wish him. I don't want him to die. Let's put it that way. I hope he gets better.
I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone to die.
No.
What about it?
Maybe Prince Andrew.
Well, I don't want him. I'd
rather see him in a prison cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dying is the easy way out.
Yeah.
That's what I think with some of these things, and that's my view.
Yeah.
It's the easy way out, man. You don't have to actually suffer for your crimes.
Yeah. Do you know what I've been seeing a lot of online at the moment?
No, look. If you don't want to see those pictures, stop
them.
following them. Stop following my page. That's as simple as that. Click unfollow if you don't want to see those pictures.
You have such witty insights sometimes, but I don't always want to see your knob.
Well, that's the page.
I just wish you'd stop writing them on your knob. Do you know what I mean? Your witty observations.
Here's a joke. The real shame of it is that I can't fit anything longer on there.
Yeah.
There's a word limit.
Yeah.
There's a character limit on what I can get.
It's quite a long character limit. It's larger than Twitter's.
It's decent. I can get a bit on there. You write small.
Yeah. My handwriting would be no good. I'm big letters.
But
yeah,
I hear you've got the space to accommodate.
Always.
But go on, what have you seen a lot of?
I've seen this thing of quiet quitting. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I'm aware of the concept. It's been around for a few years.
I hadn't.
Have you not?
No, but I've seen it's like a thing now, and a lot of people are being accused of it. Sounds like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of.
Well, and look, I think it's no secret that in my lefty wokey ways, I'm not against quiet quitting, but for me, this is what you're being accused of when you're quiet quitting. How dare you just do your job?
Yeah.
How dare you just do the thing we pay you for?
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
The complaint is that basically if you're quiet quitting, you're just doing your job. You're not
You're
going
doing
above
bare
and
minimum.
beyond.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're
Bare
not-
minimum, I feel like it's a really harsh phrase because you're doing what's expected of you. That's
Yeah.
the phrase for me. You're doing what's expected, not
What you're doing is you're not, like, for example, if
you're
you're in an
fulfilling
office,
your job brief.
you're not rushing to fulfill reports. You're not trying to get as many done as you can.
No, you're just
Or
doing.
you're just doing what you can in
what's
the time that you're
expected.
there. You turn
Yeah.
up at the start. You don't come in any earlier. You go home at the end. You don't stay any later.
Mm.
Yeah. You take your break.
I
You
don't
don't work through
understand
your
where
break.
employers get off, like why they think they're entitled to more than what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when, like for example, the company I work for, they've cut our pension recently. They've cut our sick pay, and a few other things. And they've been banging on about service and stuff recently. They're doing this big service campaign, but yet they're cutting resources, cutting labour, but wage isn't going up
No.
in a commensurate rate. But yet, I just don't get it. I don't get why companies.
I think there are some companies, and maybe a lot, but I think there are some companies that have always relied on people going above and beyond. Like they won't.
Yeah,
Maybe to run the business efficiently, they might need 1 or 2 extra people,
yeah,
but they won't hire them because they've
They
just
don't wanna pay
historically enough people have chipped in that
yeah,
they've covered those gaps.
yeah,
But actually, it's really unfair on those people to chip in. Like at my work, I've had it in the past where we've been short. We've all chipped in to cover it because we know, okay, it was just short term, and then what happened is the upper level see how you're coping.
So then they
So they
withdraw
go, all right, we're not going to get someone else. And you're like, okay, no. So then the only thing you can do is hit them where it hurts and go back to doing sort of quiet quit and go back to stop covering it and be like, when they go, well, you can cover it. You covered it before. And it's like, nope, not our job.
No, it's not what I'm.
Not
paid
in my
for.
job description yet.
No, but no, I don't think like if you want people to go above and beyond, you need to give them a reason to, and like that either needs to be through pay or through inspiring people.
How did you feel first time you saw this concept?
I thought it was ridiculous because like it depends on how you're being treated. If you're working for a company that treats you well, you have good benefits, you're happy, you're comfortable, then I don't see why you shouldn't be willing to go above and beyond now and again. Do you know what I mean? But when it's expected as just the norm as part of your job and it becomes a regular occurrence because your company's making cuts or it's not investing in the right areas or whatever the reason might be, no, fuck yourself.
But then even if someone was in a good job where they paid them well and treated them well and did all that business, if they were just doing their job, would you begrudge them? Would you think, oh, you can
Well,
go
no,
a
as
little
long
bit
as they're
above and
getting-
beyond from time to
as long as
time?
they're getting enough work done. And
And they never did any extra.
one of the
they never
biggest
did.
issues I ran into when I was a manager towards the end was the level of expectation of work was unattainable for what resources we had. And I'd get a visit from a senior manager and I'd be like, well, I'm not going to ask them to do that because I couldn't do that. So I'm not going to, because what the outcome is if they don't achieve it, which they're not going to, I've then got a performance management which will end up in, because they're not going to be able to get the work done, they're going to lose their job. And then all that's going to end up happening is I have to hire someone else who doesn't know the job as well.
Yeah, and also
And it's going
can't
to
do
get
it.
even less done.
Yeah.
So we're in an even worse position. But the expectation was I needed to be hammering people to get more. And I was like, no, I'm just not going to do it.
I always used to say when I was working before somewhere, and it was a company that relied on people going above and beyond, it really was. And what happened is, I remember it was a retail position. I remember one day they said they were doing a promotion and they said, the only way you're going to get this done. I was like, we ain't going to get that done. And they said, yeah, you just get people to stay on. And it was the first time I did it. And then and from then on, I always did it. That instance, and every time going forward, whenever I asked people to stay on, I always said to them, I said, don't feel like you have to say yes. If you genuinely just don't want to, just say no.
Were they going to get paid for it?
They would be paid for it. Yeah,
Okay.
they would be paid for it. But I was like, look, if you just don't want to, if you think I'd rather be at home, and I just say no. I said, because it's not your fault that they're not prepared for it.
No.
It's their fault if they don't want to put in the,
Yeah.
if they don't want to put it in the budget to have time properly allocated to it and staff properly allocated to it. So then don't, don't feel like you're going above and beyond, and don't feel like you're doing me a favour. Because that happened the first few times I did it. They felt like they were doing me a favour by helping me out, so I didn't like look bad in front. And from every time onwards, I would always preface it before I ask someone to stay late. I say, seriously, if you don't want to, don't.
Yeah.
But will you?
Did that mean though you then have to do it on your own?
Well, no, because I'd do the same thing. I'd be like, look, I have a life outside of this place.
Yeah.
I was like, if I can stay and do something, I'll do it. I said, but ultimately, I'm not going to make a scratch on it. The size of the job, I'm not going to put a dent in it.
Yeah.
So that I'm not to be all dismissive and defeated. But it's like, there's no point me even doing it.
No.
I'll come in tomorrow morning, at my normal earlier time, and I'll do what I can, but it just won't be done in time. And that's not. And they, they'll do that thing. Well, you should. And they, you'd have had it loads of time. They go, well, a good manager will get it. It's like, nah, balls to that. If you knew what it would take to get it done, so you get it done.
Yeah.
Don't be asking people to go above and beyond.
Problem is in food retail, right? When you're a manager, there's like a blank check on your hours almost. Like your contract actually defines it. Like the maximum you should be working or can be expected to work is 45 hours.
Yeah.
But the actual expectation is that if it's double that, tough shit, basically.
Yeah.
It just like breaks you down. And the problem is like in food retail, and I'm seeing it in where I'm working now, is all the managers are stressed out because they're constantly running around because they're having to pick up jobs constantly that were being done by someone who's no longer there.
On top of doing their own job, yeah.
And so it just means shit falls through the cracks. And then our store, because we're a training store, we'll get visits from all around and we'll get shitloads of managers coming, or we get people from really quite high up. And so they'll spend all of our labour budget for this one day. So the store looks amazing. And then afterwards, they'll cut our hours to the bone, even though they've already scheduled you for whatever. Your hours will get cut down. They might not even tell you, like this week, I've had my hours cut for a shift in 2 days. It wasn't like that yesterday. So they've done it at some point today. Haven't told me. So I could have turned up and worked hours that they won't have paid me for.
No, because they'll have said, well, you shouldn't have been here.
Yeah. But yeah, and like, yeah, that's how they're behaving. It's just mental.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've never been, like I said at the top of the item, it's such an odd thing for a certain, and it's not entirely a generational thing, but it seems to be largely a generational thing, that for a certain generation, they're like, and again, I know we've said this before, but it's another example of people going, well, I suffered, so you should suffer.
Yeah, and I've had to work hard to get here, so you're going to have to
I had to go well above and beyond and
Yeah.
not get paid any extra, and it's like, okay, just because you did, don't mean I should. Just,
I think I'm sort of like sick of the previous generation saying they also had it hard. It's like, yeah, you probably did have it hard, but not as hard as how things are now.
Well, not just that. Even if you did have it hard or harder, why would you not want to make things easier for people going forward?
Yeah.
Why would your attitude not be...
Society should improve, not let's make it worse for the next
Why would your attitude not be,
generation.
fucking hell, I really struggled with that. I really hope no one else has to either.
Yeah.
And particularly for the people who are parents and grandparents, surely just for your own kids, you should be thinking... God, I hope they don't have to suffer as in the same way I did.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't just apply to your kids and your grand. That applies to everyone in their generation.
Yeah.
You can't be like protective of them and then looking at everyone else and going, "These fucking lazy scroats." When I was that age, I was doing.
Well, we've seen like during these hard economic times, and even when it's not this bad, we look down on people even at the same level of as ourselves constantly. We judge each other. We're far harsher to the working classes, I think, in terms of how we treat one another than anyone higher up economically, really. I think like the way we judge anyone on benefits, the way they're thought of, if someone lives in a council house, there's an automatic like
assumptions.
Yeah, that goes along with that. And and to be honest with you, I was probably guilty of it a little bit myself previously, but having like been around it far more, like everyone's just people, innit? And like, when you're really struggling like everyone is now, I can't understand how even someone middle class who's got a mortgage, got kids, and like they're struggling to pay their mortgage, how they look at, well, that's the person on benefits' fault. I can't understand how that's how the solution you get to, or it's the immigrant's fault. I don't understand how you get there, how you think someone living in a council flat who for some reason they assume has got all this amazing stuff. They don't. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, maybe there's some women out there or partners or couples that have had like 8 children and they might live in a big house because they've got 8 children, but they still don't have a lot. They're not like rolling around.
I
in
know
money.
someone who's recently moved into a council flat, and they were basically like, it needs some work done to get it up to a livable standard.
Yeah.
And they were basically told, like, that's the flat. If you want it up to a livable standard, you've got to
Do the work.
put in for it. Yeah. And I know different people have different ideas of what's a livable standard. A lot of the people we're talking about now will go, well, it's a roof over their head. You know, should be grateful for anything. But it's like, no, you wouldn't want to live there. So why would you expect anyone else to?
Well, like apparently now the living standards have dropped more now. Like they've not been this bad comparatively since pre-war.
Yeah,
Like
I've read
Victorian
those
times.
stats. That's what they want. They want the workhouses back, don't they?
Well,
people.
It sort of feels like we're headed to such a like desperate situation, because I was listening to this economist and he was just like even if you think about it quite simply, most people only, if they're lucky, might inherit a property. If they've got siblings, they'll inherit a portion of a property.
Yeah.
So the wealth that was accumulated by their parents has now been split into multiple pieces. And like people who don't have a lot of money spend that money. So those people are likely to spend that money. Whereas the person who's bought that property most likely isn't even going to live in it. They're just going to own it as part of their portfolio, either sell it on for more money after they've done it up, or what most of them do, which is rent it out. And he was like, what that means is that over a number of generations, and the more house prices go up, the more
that is trickle down economics. It's fewer and fewer. The same amount of money that was at the top is now at the bottom, and it's just spread thinner.
Yeah.
I assume that's the angle you're...
No, it's the opposite, that the money's trickling back up constantly, that the more the house prices go up and the amount of people who can then afford them goes down. The only people who can buy them are people with
already money.
Yeah. So like the example he used was like Rishi Sunak has a £21 million a year passive income. So that's income that he doesn't need and doesn't do anything, like doesn't have to do anything with. Is that just going to sit in a bank account? No, he's going to invest it. What's he going to invest it in? Property, stocks, all these things. And like even rich people don't even have to spend money the same we do. So like for example, a year or so ago, Beyonce and Jay-Z bought a £200 million ridiculous property cash. And what I found out they would have done is they don't have 200 million cash. They have 200 million worth of assets. They'll borrow 200 million against their assets, so they don't have to sell those assets, buy the property, then get a mortgage on that property that they've now paid for, pay off the line of credit, normally a very, very, very low interest rate if they've had to pay interest at all. Because normally if you're that rich, the banks you're working with will just work with you to keep your business. So they've managed to buy a property without losing anything. And with a mortgage that they would not have got
if you look
to
now,
buy the property in the first place.
I think I looked this up the other day. If you buy a bed sit or a 1-bed flat or whatever it is for like £130,000 now, and the interest rates as they are, and you take out a 30-year mortgage, because of the interest on it, you're basically going to be paying for the house twice.
Yeah.
By the time you've paid it back, if it's £130,000, you'll have basically paid back £238,000 by the end of the
mortgage.
By the end of the mortgage. Like you said, if you've got a situation where you can pay that off quicker and you can pay that off in clever ways where you don't have to pay as high an interest, it is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the system we know has always been stacked for those that have, for the haves rather than the have-nots. Because he was like,
you wouldn't be able to get a mortgage for a £200 million property. He was like, but you can get a line of credit for a bank for that amount that you have that many assets with. And then once you own the property, you can get a mortgage on it because it's now your asset. So that's the way they get around it. So like just having money means that, but basically what he's saying is it's just constantly trickling up. There isn't any money trickling down.
No, it's the fallacy of trickle-down economics. It doesn't exist. Money only ever goes in one direction.
Well, the thing is,
those at the top don't spend money. We've said it before.
Yeah.
The ones at the top don't put money back into the economy. No. The ones at the bottom put money back into the economy. And unfortunately, the ones that benefit from the money going back into the economy are the ones at the top.
Yeah.
And I think that's the angle you were going for.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And the problem is because we're not taxing the people with the wealth, the money never gets redistributed. It just stays with the rich. So he was saying we're now in a position where the government doesn't own enough assets to be like viable. Like, he said the country's financial situation is pretty fucked, to be honest.
And it's been exacerbated. It was always going to be bad. I'm not trying to blame the Tories entirely. Although obviously they have been in power more than anyone else. And and I'm not going to blame Brexit entirely.
And then the pandemic definitely did damage.
The sheer money grabbing nature and helping themselves nature of the Johnson government,
I think
have made things. I think they've sped things up.
Mate, Sunak's lining is in his missus's pockets. They're getting contracts left, right, and centre.
But from the start of Johnson's government, it just ramped up in such a way that it's.
Yeah. I actually don't think it ramped up. I think that is what it's always been.
Mate, I think it's always.
I just think we just became aware that that's
maybe.
How
I think it's always been there, but I think they just did it so. Brashly, it probably was less
brazen, perhaps.
Yeah, there was always you'd have to be clever about it before. Whereas then under them, it was just like, just do it.
I think what that is that Johnson, his entire political career,
he's just got away with things.
Has never had to address anything.
No.
He just does whatever he wants, does a few speeches, goes to Ukraine, whatever it might be, to distract people, and he just keeps on moving. So, and look, we're in a situation where fucking Liz Truss is making a comeback. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if we're still in a line of sight.
Every speech she does, she needs to have, don't call it a comeback. Could you imagine? There's no way she's licensing that. There's no way she's getting
a disgrace.
Oh, mate.
That is
we're on the right page.
We're on the same page.
I was at HMP Pentonville last week. They've now got patrol dogs who are barking, which helps deter drones.
You had a plan.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I'll be in Beijing, opening up new pork markets.
She was our Prime Minister.
The drones and the dogs was a personal favourite for sure.
Mate.
Sorry, what? These mechanised things that are controlled by someone put off all by over dogs. There, they're put off by the dogs.
I might have even had a little... I've got some of her speech that she did, if you'd like to hear it. I don't know if you ever heard any of it.
I think we listened to a bit of it, no?
Oh, did we? Did we actually listen to it?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. We don't need to do that then. What was I going to talk to you about?
Well, I can't tell you that. You know that, right?
So we've done Lindsey Hoyle.
Very, very uncharacteristically straight use of the word
What do we do about people who are voting for reform? Like, who are they?
Oh, the Reform Party?
Yeah.
I think the Reform are doing the clever thing that UKIP did.
It's Farage, isn't it?
Well, where they're cashing in on...
a gap in the market.
People who are fed up of traditional government, quote unquote. You know, they're like, fuck the Tories. Labour ain't no better.
Yeah.
I need someone else.
No, but like, I always keep coming back to these things where it's like, I don't even understand how you get to that answer from that question. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're completely dissatisfied with politics, why Nigel Farage, of all people, someone who's never managed to get elected to anything other than the European Parliament.
Got his bank account back low.
Did he?
God bless the jungle.
Or is he back into...
I assume so. I mean, he hit the threshold, didn't he?
Yeah, but I tell him to go do one still.
Getting paid that jungle money.
I'd literally in the email go do one, Nige.
Yeah. CS.
We still got the royal family. Go fuck yourself. Do you know what I mean?
I'm still hung up on the liquid death thing. I don't know if it shows.
Are you? Did that really upset
LD.
you?
It was the LD thing. I was like, don't call yourself LD.
I sort of get it. You get annoying constantly typing liquid death.
I think you just have a set, respond. I can't remember what they call it, but I have one on my work email. You have like an automatic footer kind of thing where it's got all your details. It's got the company details. It's got your details. I've got one set up on my email.
See what I do for some of the notes in the podcast is like all the links. I have them saved in notes on my laptop, so I just have to copy and paste them every time. I don't have to go searching for them.
Yeah.
Genius.
But either way, you don't call it. But we've done liquid death. We've done LD.
They're dead to us. Who should I email next?
I thought you was going to do manscaping or something.
Well, I did joke I could go for Manscaped. I feel, again, I honestly thought liquid death was a good shout. I felt like it sort of worked.
There was synergy between us.
But like, you're a hairy man. I feel like you need some Manscaped.
I'm a bit astute, for sure.
And like, to be honest, they sponsor everyone. So again, it's going to be quite insulting when they reject us.
Yeah, but it's going to listen. I'm going to love this semi-regular pop segment.
But look,
where we just
should we have the discussion on air? They send us a free to sponsor us, we get sent a Manscaped package of
Yeah.
some kind. Who has it? Rock, paper, scissors it?
Yeah, I'm happy.
When it
I'm
arrives?
happy to rock paper scissors for it.
Right, that's fair. Okay.
Or
Because that's not something you can split. Like, I'm not sharing a Manscaped
well, it's all right if you go
trimmer
first.
with you. Yeah, but I'm
You
never.
just don't want to
I'm
be. You
just
don't
not
want to be
ever going to
second.
use it again.
You don't want to be second.
Once you've used it,
What
it's
do you
now
think's wrong
yours
with my
as far as-
body?
What do you mean? Why do you want? So you're telling me you'd go use, if I had a pube trimmer, right? Manscaped send me one of their weed whackers. See, look, we're ready for it. We're ready for it.
Available in all good
Weed
places.
Weed Whacker 4.0, I think they're on now. That's how many pods I watch where they're sponsoring them.
Sure, who needs to keep updating that?
What do you mean?
Well, the weed whacker 4.1. Surely you do one that's good enough for the market,
Bro, this is why you're not a millionaire.
You maybe do two
But
or
in your own
three.
right.
and then you go right. That's
This is why you
Don't,
haven't
isn't
built
it?
a
They just-
successful
they
business.
they just like draw a stripe on the side and go, that's number 5. Give us your money.
You could just do what the owner of Brewdog does and just refuse to pay his staff the national minimum wage. You know.
Dude, that doesn't surprise me, by the way. If
Yeah.
that's true, that
Apparently,
doesn't
he's
surprise
an
me.
absolute wank staying that bloke.
No, a man responsible for like the fucking wankiest beer.
And you know the worst
brand
part? He
ever.
built this proper edgy, like they're this edgy beer company. They've got stuff like Elvis juice. And
They're like
things that.
Yars. They're like those, aren't they?
But-
Like Yarbros.
He was on Diary of a CEO. I then found out because he has gone after the big companies and done a big he's very publicly been like, fuck you guys, basically. He owns shares in Carlin.
It's top.
He sold some of his shares in his own company so that he could buy stock in the largest beer company on the planet.
Right. I mean, people who I don't mind a Brewdog, if I'm honest. Like, I've
never
had them
tried
before,
it.
they're okay.
Never tried it.
But I think generally people who drink Brewdog are...
I think we sagged him off before because I think we talked about the golden can thing because they did the gold.
Oh, the Wonka thing.
That was worth like $3,000 or $5,000 or something like that if you found the golden can. And then they were saying, oh no, we're just going to send you like £500, something like that. And they're like, but you said the cans, oh no, people were going to get it valued, sorry. And they were like, it's worth £500.
Yeah.
So then they wrote to Brewdog and were like, you said it was worth this amount. That's how much it's worth to us, was what their excuse was. Those golden cans are worth $5,000 to us.
Yeah. They don't have the best reputation.
No.
I'll tell you what, if they want to sponsor us, I will happily come on there and slag them off every week.
I think we should
No
boycott
problem.
them. I think the British people should do to Brewdog what they did to Wetherspoons, which I have so much respect for the British people for. It's slowly going out of business. Now, it's bad for the people that work for them, but Tim Wetherspoon's an absolute
He's a prick.
bell end.
Tim Martin, is it?
I thought his name was actually Wetherspoon.
I thought his name was like Tim Martin.
Oh, maybe it is.
But he's a fucking bellend.
He's an absolute bell end, and it's all over what he did.
Making his
during-
staff work through the pandemic, trying to make his staff work through the
But he
pandemic.
let them off. He
without-
tried to let them all go, didn't he, or something?
then-
And then tried to get them all
Exactly.
back.
And then, yeah,
Yeah.
sacking them all. Then when they came back after closing, he was like, and then he came out with that classic, no one wants to work anymore. It's like, because you don't pay a good enough fucking wage.
No, you treat people like shit. You treat them like disposable.
The shifts are rubbish and you don't pay them anything.
No.
That's how you can afford to do pints at £2 a pint or
Never
whatever it
stepped
is.
foot in a Wetherspoon since that.
I've been to the one at the airport.
But there's not many options at an airport, is there?
No.
And look, that
I don't count the airport.
No,
I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it.
I'll let like, it irks me a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
No, I
when
don't
you
feel
said
good
it.
about it. I don't feel comfortable
But
about it.
you need a pint at the airport. I get it.
But I've got to be honest. Okay, I've got to hold my hands up and say that I can't sit here and say I never use Wetherspoons.
Look, I still watch House of Cards. All right, I'll say
It's
it on
weird,
air.
and that's where you draw the line. Who was it we were talking that about though? Who was it we were saying?
I can't remember.
What prompted that? Who got found to be dodgy?
Oh, don't. I have no idea. It could be anyone. There's been loads.
It's not. Yeah, there's a few bad people around.
Yeah, I genuinely can't remember who we were talking about, and it was like, it's funny that I can forgive Kevin Spacey. Technically been found not guilty.
I don't know if
I mean?
you forgive. Do you forgive him, or are you just happy to still watch his work?
Bit of both. I don't forgive him. No, I'm being a bit hyperbolic there, but like, I love House of Cards so much as a series, and his performance in it. Like, it's the first show I've ever watched in my life where, from the first scene, I was gripped by it.
I've never really had a problem with separating art from artists because I've always I've always thought of it as like there are so many people that work, particularly with like films, TV shows, and albums and stuff.
Yeah.
So many people work on those things. All the songwriting, unless
Yeah,
it's someone
it's
who writes their
unfair
own songs and produces their own stuff. In which case, you've only really got like a sound mixer and whatever to who you're like. Oh, that's a bit dirty to them. But to all the songwriters, most artists don't write their own songs. So you're doing a lot of songwriters dirty by
most of
boycotting
them
them.
not.
Majority of the big ones don't. It's becoming
so
more
Taylor
common.
Swift not write
No, Taylor Swift does, and she writes with other people as well.
Yeah.
But it's becoming more. It's becoming more the trend.
Yeah.
Definitely, when you look back 15 years ago, there's more people now doing it than there were 15, 20 years ago. But
I know in country it's a big thing. Like I know in country it's very common for like the big stars to have not written their own music.
no.
But what were we talking about?
Well, I was saying, like, you've got all the songwriters you're doing dirty.
Yeah.
For example, in House of
that was it,
Cards,
yeah.
if Kevin Spacey's found too dirty, the writer,
Yeah.
because I think House of Cards was a remake as well. So like,
Yeah,
you've got
it
the
is.
writer
There
of
was
the
a British
original
version, yeah.
and the writer of this one.
Yeah.
You've got all the writers. I imagine there was a room of writers, but
Yeah.
all the writers, all the directors that worked on it,
Producers.
all the other cast.
Yeah. The
It's
people who put
really
money into
it's
it
really
as well.
unfair on them
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they unless they knew.
Like, I've got to admit, because I said to you before on pod, I've been on a little Tarantino kick recently, just watching some of his films. Like, when the Weinstein thing comes up at the start,
Yeah.
I did, like, wince a little bit. Like, when I watched Django, I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Do you know what I mean?
Thing is, like, Tarantino massively contributed to the Miramax thing.
Success.
Like, they call it. Sometimes it was referred to in the business
He
as the
talked
house that
about
Harvey
it.
built. The house that
I think
the
he
house
talked
that
about it on
Tarantino
Joe
built.
Rogan, about, like, the Weinstein accusations at the time. Obviously, we now know he's proper scumbag. And he was like, you hear, he said, there's not like someone who works in Hollywood you don't hear those rumours about, which he saw as a
He
almost
dismissed it. Yeah.
reassuring thing, whereas that would more concern me about everyone.
It
in
means pretty much everyone's at it.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And like they didn't just work together. He wasn't just like a financier to Tarantino. They were very close.
On the Tarantino thing,
And he's a bit of a weirdo, really, isn't he? Like
he's odd. He's definitely
There's
odd.
a scene in Dawn to Dusk, is it? What's the vampire one he did years ago? Dusk Till Dawn.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
With George Clooney.
What's this? Which scene?
There's a scene where Salma Hayek's like doing belly dancing.
Oh yeah.
And he's sat next to George Clooney, I think. And
He drinks off her.
yeah, she's pouring
Well,
a
this
drink
is what I was
down her
about
leg
to
and
say.
he's sucking on her toes.
But this was I was about. Okay. I'm so glad you said this. This
Yeah.
works perfectly because I just want to maybe finish with asking you: Do you kind of respect that fact that he's gone balls to the walls with his foot fetish and he puts it in like every film?
Oh, is it an actual thing?
It's hard to argue against it. I mean, there's like a whole scene in Kill Bill. Like the reason I say this as well is because the last 2 times I've turned on Kill Bill,
Yeah.
to see where it was. Because the first time I turned it on, I was like, I like Kill Bill. Part 1, I was like, I like Kill Bill. I was like, I'll sit and watch it.
Yeah.
And it was at this bit. And then the second time I turned over, I was like, I wonder if it's any earlier and I can watch like the first. I mean, I was near the start of the film anyway. And I was like, oh, I wonder whether there's like, and it was the same bit. It was the same scene, and it's like a whole thing where she's trying to, like, she's just woken up, and she's kind of like paralyzed from the waist down, and she's trying to wake herself up. So she's focusing on her toes. That's the thing. Is like you start at the toes and you work your way up.
Yeah.
So it's just long shots of her feet, and that is not the only instance where feet have made a predominant thing.
Okay.
I mean,
hadn't noticed, to be honest.
in Reservoir, Pulp Fiction, even
I know I feel bad because it's just a kink then, isn't it?
in Pulp Fiction, there's like a whole thing where Marcellus Wallace like fucking threw this guy out of a window of his character. By the way,
Yeah.
he's like threw this cat out the window, and Jules and I can't think of the character's name, but Sam Jackson and John Travolta are talking about this, and they're like, "Listen, man, this motherfucker touched his girl's feet. No, you don't do that to another man." And there's like a whole thing about, and he, as far as I'm concerned, and I think as far as a lot of people are concerned who are familiar enough with Tarantino's work, he has a clear foot fetish. But for me, do you respect the fact that he's gone balls to the walls and just put feet and focus on feet and shots of feet in every film he's done and sat and drank from Salma Hayek's feet? Or do you think that's a bit weird, man, and you should have held back? It's
Probably
a bit
more
revealing a
this-
bit too much. Because there's a little bit of you in every film that you make as a creative.
Yeah.
Is that the wrong part of you to be in the film?
A little bit. Yeah.
Which side do you go on?
Yeah, I think the second one, that it's a bit too far.
You don't think?
Like,
But yeah, man, you like what you like.
that as well, like, absolutely, you suck on as many toes as you like, but I don't.
Don't put them on
Like,
IMAX.
it didn't fit into.
Don't sit me in the
It
middle of the
didn't
road.
like fit into the scene. Do you know what I mean? And
Don't make
like,
me pay £10 to watch you
and
suck
like,
someone's
I
toe.
hadn't noticed other than that. To be honest,
If
I
you
hadn't
watch,
noticed any.
if you're watching
I
any
might
Tarantino
rewatch it
now,
and see for foot scenes.
you will see like there's a clear theme. And if you're on a Tarantino
Yeah.
run, I'd say definitely watch some of those earlier ones. But there is a clear.
What I'll say about Tarantino though is for me what it must be is that he trusts the actors he works with, because the performances he gets out of them, like we were talking before the pod, Christoph Waltz is for me arguably one of the best actors on the planet in terms of the performance he can put in the right role. And even like, I think that Leonardo DiCaprio is a very creepy man, in my opinion. The older he gets, the creepier he gets, sadly.
That's because the older he gets, his girlfriends stay the same.
Yeah, but he's a fucking good actor, and he can play a really good range.
And
of
I
roles.
like that Tarantino's found in the last few films, he's found Brad Pitt. Since Inglourious Bastards, he's found Brad Pitt to collaborate with.
Again, a very damaged and
Brad
from what
Pitt
I've heard,
in
not a great bloke.
In his first half of his career, I've always said this. I've always thought this about Brad Pitt. In the first half of his career, and he's picked some fantastic projects, by the way. But he was always like the pretty boy.
Yeah,
and he was almost, in a way, he was almost held back by his good looks, because now he's a bit older and he's had the freedom to really act a lot more.
Yeah,
he's shown what he can do. I mean, he did it a little bit in other films anyway, like Meet Joe Black.
How it comes across is mate, by the way, I've never seen that film, but I saw the scene, and I think you know what scene I'm talking about. Yeah, with the old lady.
Yeah.
I was not ready. I was not ready for that voice.
It's one of the funniest things. But knowing the context of the film, he'll be alright. No, what does he say to her? It's something like that.
He does say that. He's like, no, sister, gonna be alright.
It's so good.
But his voice is like, it's quite high pitched.
Also, him in Snatch, by the way, when he plays he plays an Irish gypsy.
Yeah.
He plays like an Irish traveller. Like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
The man's got range.
No, he absolutely has. And like, he was really good in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even though I hated the film. He was really good in it. I loved him in Troy in the earlier part of his career. I loved that film. I thought he was excellent. Like, one of my favourite ever scenes in a movie is right at the start of that. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen Troy, no.
Right at the start of this film, Agamemnon is trying to slowly take over all of Greece, and the last kingdom is, I can't remember which one, but he comes up against them. They fought the day before, and he says to the other king, instead of us watching hundreds of young men,
let's just send our best.
Yeah. So the other king calls for this huge, like, Hulk of a guy, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but white. Like, bald, massive. And then he calls Achilles. It's Brad Pitt. He's not there. He's back at his shack, hungover, just finished banging 2 women, one of which, incredibly, had fake boobs.
It's good for the age.
Yeah. And then he comes along and he has like a spat with the king, but ends up going to fight. And this guy's like throwing spears at him, and he's just sprinting straight at him the whole time. And then just at the last second pulls his sword out, jumps, and then just puts it straight down into the side of his neck, and he just collapses. And then the best part about it is he stands in front of the entire army, and he's just like, is there no one else? And it's, oh, you dirty bastard. And he pulls it off. He pulls off action.
Since Inglourious Bastards,
which, again,
you know,
really
I'm
good
glad
in that.
he's had a chance to really turn it
around. I didn't know what to expect watching that film, but I genuinely liked it. I can see me watching it again. Mainly
for Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, and
he's so good in it. He's so good in it.
And Brad Pitt's really good in it, but Christoph Waltz acts everyone off the screen.
That scene when they're towards the end of the film, when he's like, you know, I'm going to let you turn me over, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they have that conversation across the table, and Brad Pitt's just like so confused. Christoph Waltz. I mean, Brad Pitt's great in that scene as well, and I can't think of the name of the actor he's with. But
Isn't he also the lad from The Office, the American Office?
Yeah, BJ Novak. In fact, it is. But he plays his role really well as well.
Yeah.
But Christoph Waltz is. I think if I was going to pick a scene from the film to say to showcase his talent, I think it probably would be that scene.
It would be that, or the one right,
or the one
at the
in the farm. Yeah. But He's so good.
Yeah, but there's
So good.
and every time he pops up, you're like, oh fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like you're instantly dreading it because you're like, oh fuck, what's he?
Yeah,
about
when
to
he do?
turns
around when they're at the
restaurant
theatre or whatever
something,
it was. Oh, in the restaurant
and he
when he
makes her
comes
sit
out.
down
Yeah.
and have pie with her, and you're just like, oh fuck, and you realise she was one of the people from the beginning of the film.
It's phenomenal. It's
Brilliant
phenomenal
film.
stuff.
Brilliant film.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs. That's the one you got to check out.
Hasn't
Pulp
that
Fiction
got,
is great as well.
Is Reservoir Dogs the one with I like the actor he did Lie to Me, Tim Roth.
Tim Roth's in it. Tim
I
Roth's
really like
amazing
Tim
in it, by
Roth.
the way. Tim Roth's incredible in it. You've got
He's one of those actors that's just got bags of presence on screen. Do you know what I mean? There's just some people like Al Pacino. Like, have you ever seen Any Given Sunday?
No, I know you've mentioned it a lot,
bro,
but especially for that scene.
I'll have to send you that scene and just show you that, because even my sister, who's not into like sports films whatsoever,
She was invigorated.
I watched it, and like we put it on in the living room so everyone could watch it. And she ended up like, it was quite funny because in the scene, like people start walking closer, and she literally like stops what she's doing and comes and walks into the room to watch it. And it was
Al
like,
Pacino's a fantastic actor, by the way.
mate, the Devil's Advocate. There's like a moment where he's talking about like he was banging this woman. He's like, and she looks back like as if she's just had the Roman legion like run through her, and what does she see? Little old me. He's fantastic.
And the he's that scene in what's the name of the film where he plays the blind guy, and he's got like Chris O'Donnell is like a student that's like helping him out kind of thing, but it's that scene of like I'm out of order, you're out of order, this whole court's out of order.
I don't think I've actually seen that one.
That's a fantastic scene.
No.
I love the smell of I think he says I love the smell of pussy. No, but he's
that
fantastic.
reminds me of A Few Good Men. That's a really good film as well. With Jack Nicholson. I didn't expect to like that film because I'd never seen it before, and it was randomly on Netflix. So
very clever, very good.
Yeah. Well, that was a random little.
It's a little film thing.
I liked that.
I like films.
But yeah, I'll send you the link to the Al Pacino scene. It's not very long. It's maybe like 5 minutes.
I'll see if Reservoir Dogs is on any streaming service, but.
Nice.
That's my personal favourite, like I said, and Tim Roth is amazing in it.
We can either end it with a couple of little football things I had, or we could cover what's happened with Palace, because last week we sort of said Roy wasn't well, but we didn't know what was going on.
No, so he had been let go.
Yeah. Is that actually, because it still seems quite unclear. For me, it comes across the way they're trying to play
He's
stepping aside.
I think Parish would have always given him the opportunity to step aside. I don't think Parish would have ever just sacked him.
No.
He may have.
I think he would have, but the option would have been, let's say you're stepping.
Yeah. I've drafted you a resignation letter.
Some people
kind
say
of thing.
they reckon it could be like a bit of a, not a hoax, but like a farce, that
an exaggerated thing, perhaps.
Like perhaps he got upset after being sacked and wasn't necessarily unwell, but then they came up with the idea of.
Or maybe he was unwell, but they saw it as an opportunity to exaggerate it.
Yeah, because the weird thing was, at the start of the day, the report was he was going to get sacked that day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then the next report we heard was that he'd been taken to hospital. So like, it's still quite unclear.
I'm sure it'll come out. What I really liked is I've seen one screenshot from an interview with Oliver Glasner.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I hope this turns out to be.
He was like, I just want to score goals, wasn't he?
Yeah, he says the philosophy is simple.
Score goals,
score
enjoy
lots of
playing
goals.
football.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said that when you're young and you're playing football, you always want the ball and you want to score goals. He's like, that's what I want my team to do. But what I found interesting...
He's inheriting a great Palace side, by the way.
He is.
Whether they stay that way, because Ezra and Elise saying he might go in the summer.
We're very likely going to sell at least one of them in the summer.
He is inheriting a fantastic...
I think the most likely out of the three of them will be Gahey, you know.
What, to go?
Yeah. Because I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to stump... Like, Elise's a weird one because he's got that release clause so that he's not unattainable, whereas Eze, for me, we're going to be looking at, we're going to want 60 to 70 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to want at least 50.
Like 50, I think we'd probably all feel a little bit shortchanged that perhaps we could...
Given the potential the boy's got.
100%. Whereas Gahey, I feel like, to have an English centre-back of that quality, and he's still...
And he could be future England captain.
Absolutely. Like, and you wouldn't, like, if Man City signed him, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's not good enough to play there. You'd be like, he might not start week in, week out, but he's going to get integrated into that team and become a world-class defender, because that's what Like even John Stones, like there were stages where John Stones was like written off, wasn't he? Like
He was
in
out of
bad
that team.
form,
And
but
now he's playing defensive mid.
Yeah, and like become one of the most integral parts of Pep's team.
Yeah, one of the first.
And I actually
teams,
think that is a testament to Pep, that he can find a use for a player. And
do you know what? While we're on football, I would just like to give shout outs to two pundits who I think have come on leaps and bounds since they first started. So I would like to say, first of all, Jamie Mackey. I mean, Lee Hendry's come on a lot, to his credit.
I
But
saw him.
Jamie
Mackey
Mackey gave one of the most well thought out and articulate answers to a question I've ever heard on Soccer Saturday. I think it was the evening one, but whatever that setup. The question was about, I think it was either a Leeds player or I think it was one of the Leeds boys, and they were talking about what happens if a Premier League club comes and buys him. You know, do you think he'll do well? And he said this. He said, first of all, he said, as someone who's done it, I know. He said it's a huge step up. He said that jump to the Premier League is a massive jump in terms of the speed of the play, the strength needed.
I've heard so many footballers say just the physicality on its own.
What he said that really made me sit up and go, because you know a lot of people say it's a big step up. What he said, and I'm about to tell you, made me sit up and go, Jamie Mackey might actually have some insight, even if he was a broken clock and he's run, you know, twice a day kind of thing. Because what he said was, he said the biggest struggle of assessing a player that comes up, he says a player like him, he says right now he's playing in a really good championship team and they're going to dominate games and have lots of balls. He said the chances of him going up to the Premier League to a team that does that, it's not going to happen. They said he's going to go up to one of the lower teams or the mid-table teams where he's not going to have the ball. He's not going to have that much possession. No. So he's got to either become a different player or we've got to assess him differently. And I thought that was a really insightful answer to give.
I mean, that's exactly what's happening with Burnley, if you think about it. They went from being the dominant team in the Championship to being one of the worst teams in the league. And like most pundits pre-season were saying that they thought Burnley would be all right. And like now we're looking at it and like Luton, the team that everyone doomed to failure, are looking decent, and Burnley just look like they don't have a hope.
And then the other one I really like, because he brings a lot of personality and sense of humour, is Clinton Morrison.
Okay.
There's been a few instances. So, for example,
He's a good lad.
Last week they were talking about some kind of like, I think it was some kind of like cheating thing, you know, like dirty little midfield play kind of thing. Yeah. And he turned around to Tim Sheridan and was like, "Don't even like you be doing it. Yeah. Don't give me none of that. You be." And Tim Sheridan went, "No, yeah, right, you're right. I would."
No, he would. I've seen footage recently of Tim Sherwood going after David Beckham after the sending off in the first game they came up against each other.
But it was Clinton just turning to him and be like, "Mate, you." And then the other night he did two things. So first thing he said, "I know." He said the striker. He said he's got through. He said, "I know he's not the penalty taker though because he stayed up." He said, "Any penalty taker I know goes down in this situation, me included." And then he went, and then he was the last game on. He was like, "Do you want me to talk for?" He said, "Listen, if you want to stick with me, I'll talk for 10 minutes." And he just went 94 minutes, 13 seconds, 14 seconds, 15 seconds, still playing, still going, 17 seconds. There's just something quite fun about him.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't take himself too seriously.
And I think it's the reason I like Ali McCoist. I think a lot of commentators, they want, or pundits, they want to be insightful. They want to be smart. So they want to come across that way. And they're really pressing it to be like, I really have this insight. Yeah. Whereas the likes of Clinton Morrison, and Clinton Morrison has got a lot better as a pundit. Yeah. But the likes of Ali McCoist, they're just themselves. Yeah. And if they happen to have insight, it comes across in a very natural way. It doesn't come across in a, I'm really smart.
I like Ali McCoist. He's one of the good guys in football, I think.
Yeah.
One of the other football-related things I wanted to talk about
sorry, I took us off.
No, it's absolutely fine, mate. Was Tom Lockyer, the Luton captain.
Yeah, okay.
There's been footage of him online that he did himself, of him showing the defibrillator he's had installed. I think it's literally like here, sort of towards the back of his body. And he was like, it's just there. It will last for 10 years so that if my heart ever gets out of the range it should be, it will get a shock and that should stabilise him. And he said, but that shouldn't be necessary. But a lot of people have been almost criticising him and like Luton and saying that he shouldn't ever step foot on a football pitch again.
He shouldn't.
Do you not think so?
You can't have, when you think in recent years there have been more high-profile players who have had... But do you think he would
be allowed to even have a chance of stepping back on the pitch if he hasn't been assured that he's able to?
Let me tell you how I'd approach it. Okay, so Christian Eriksen, for example,
I was going to mention Christian
had
Eriksen.
A heart attack.
Yeah.
He's certainly not the only one. He's certainly not in the recent years. There's been a couple. Tom Lockyer had two in less than a year. Yeah. He had one at the playoff final in May. and then he worked his way back from that,
Yeah.
and then he's had another one earlier this season.
Yeah.
For me, and it's not even May yet, so like I said, in less than a year he's had 2. I'm now looking at that as a manager, for example, and I'm thinking I've got a responsibility, a duty of care to my players. If I put him on the pitch, as far as I'm concerned, and I know I'm not a medical
What about
professional,
him?
there's a good chance that he dies,
Yeah.
and I am not going to put that on,
I
because it's
think
not
I
just on
disagree,
him.
though, because
Well, 'cause it's not just on him, it's on the players, it's on all the other players that are going to have to be a part of that.
no,
It's
that
going
I
to be on
understand.
all the fans that are going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
It's just, I would be like, look, I appreciate that it's his body, it's his thing, and he wants to do it, but I would not
But
be
I
taking a
can
chance
only
on him.
assume
Would you be
he's-
taking a chance on him?
I mean, if I was his manager, it would be the 2 things I'd want to know is what have the doctors said? Like, what are their honest opinions on how your heart's going to hold up?
Well, you wouldn't talk to you'd talk to the doctors, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah.
You'd
but
get
then-
separate doctors in.
Yeah, absolutely fine. But I don't even think in terms of insurance he'd be allowed to even step on a training pitch again if he wasn't able to. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way the insurance companies for
If
the
doctors
football
say-
clubs would cover them if they didn't have clearance from
If
doctors.
doctors say, and I think, the best you can hope for is that they say,
And also
we
think of
we
the-
think, whilst there's always a chance, the risk assessment is low, the risk is
Yeah.
low, would you still have him back?
Yeah,
Or if he was another club, would you take him?
yeah.
Do you not feel like 2 heart attacks in a year?
No, but that, like, for me,
That's not nothing.
no, it's not. But what else is he going to do?
What, after
What
this?
happens to his career? What about his mortgage? What if he's got bills to
I'm
pay?
not, but he's
You're
not the
now-
only...
No, but you're saying he should lose his ability to earn money because people are
But what
uncomfortable
about-
with it.
Oh, no, it's not about uncomfortable. No, it's not about uncomfortable.
Then what's it about?
It's not
then?
about... It's a risk assessment. You have a duty of care to him.
No, but he's telling you it's fine. The doctors are telling
I don't
you
give a
it's
fuck
fine.
about that. There's no way a man who's
So
had 2
your
heart attacks
opinion
in a
on it is
year...
more important than the man who's putting
Because they
himself
can never
at
tell
risk.
you he's fine. They can tell you they think the risk is low.
Yeah, but what you're saying to me is that your opinion over a doctor's and the person in question
I would have to have some serious
is more
assurances.
important than his.
I would have to have some serious assurances from doctors,
Yeah,
and I'd want at least 2.
I'm sure. I think you're underestimating for the amount of money that's at risk with this man's life from the insurance companies
But
and everything else.
What I'm saying to you as well, as a counterpoint, is
Yeah.
there are a lot of players who have their careers ended early through just sheer
Yeah.
unfortunate chance.
But he's clearly not in that situation, is he?
I think he is.
Well, based off, you've not seen his medical reports.
I've not seen his medical reports, but you and I both... Oh, no, okay, you and I don't both know, but a man who's had a heart attack twice, at the very least, he's got something going on underneath.
I feel like I'm more at risk of having a heart attack than Tom Lockyer is.
Yeah, well, if you
Think
get
of
called
the
up to play
physical
Premier League football, we'll consider it a risk.
But like, he will be in the peak of physical condition. And Fabrice Mwamba's one of the other big examples. He had to retire from football because of the exact same issue. Because he must not have his heart must have been damaged to a degree that it was not safe for him to do it.
Or he just didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Maybe, but I would have assumed it was in that situation at that age. It's more likely to be that he was told he was. I'm pretty sure I've heard him interviewed say he wasn't able to.
Yeah, and that may well be the case.
And that's the same with the other examples you're using. Like players have their careers
At
ended
the
all
very
time.
least
You're
with Tom
absolutely right, they
Lockyer,
do.
at the very least with Tom Lockyer, he's got something undiagnosed going on.
I don't know. You can say that.
No, I can't say that with absolute certainty.
You can't say it
but
with any certainty because there's no way he gets back onto a football pitch again if there's anything like that,
the chances of having
do you
2
not think
heart
they would have
attacks-
scanned every inch of his heart after 2 heart attacks? to
No, and I
assess
get
every
it,
bit of
but
damage?
the chances of having 2 heart attacks less than a year apart and them not being related
I think
are
it's more,
not impossible, but it's slim.
for me, that's
I don't
more
think you
likely
could
to
argue
be an
against
issue, and
that.
hence why he's got a defibrillator. Is that there's most likely, like my sister's got a heart condition, and my dad had it as well, where the beat could be irregular, and
Yeah.
you know, and for some people that's worse than others. So like that might be for him what the issue is, and it might cause a short circuit, and that's what causes the heart attack. I don't know. I'm just guessing. The fact he's
I
got
think it's a bit more than... It would likely be a bit more than that.
possibly, but we don't know that, and
No.
I can only assume with the millions of pounds that would be at stake with him making a decision to step back on the football pitch is that if all the I's and the T's weren't crossed, he wouldn't be allowed back on a football pitch. Maybe I'm being naive in that belief.
What else might play a part of it as well? And
I would agree that I could be more wrong the bigger the player it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, the more money was at stake, the more I could believe that it could be more corrupt, if that makes sense.
I don't think it's corrupt. I'm not, please, I don't think there's any suggestion of that.
But I can't believe he wouldn't be able to get. He would be able to get on a football pitch again if he wasn't capable of doing.
For me personally, again, I can't say this for sure because I'm not in that situation, and it is very high pressure. We know that. But if you are the Luton manager, Rob Edwards, if you'd, there must be. There must be. Again, I'm using a lot of certain terms, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a fair amount of guilt on his end that thought. I know, because guilt is not rational.
No,
right?
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a part of him, because I'm imposing my own self on this. I think that if I was in his situation, I'd feel guilty of
that he's had 2 heart attacks under my watch.
Well, that he's had the second one under my watch. That even though the doctors have said it's fine to play, and he said it's fine to play, and he played for a good few months with no issues. The fact that it happened and I'd selected it, I'd almost feel like, there'd be a bit of me that thinks I let that happen. And that guilt, I think, would be the driving factor in a large way to me saying, I'm not letting that happen again. I'm not risking that. I'm not letting you go out and kill yourself under my watch.
I'd feel just as uncomfortable, though, with the idea of, like, particularly, this might be his only season in the Premier League. Like, I'm not saying
it might be. And it's, the Euros for Wales, which he's never going to make now anyway.
Such a small window to earn their money. That to say to him at 28, where he's probably not in the right financial situation to have to retire.
No, but
to say to him that he can't ever earn money to the same level again because like I'm saying, without knowing what the actual issues are, it feels like people are just uncomfortable with the idea because they don't want to see a man die on a football pitch. And I completely empathise with that. I don't want to see him die.
He might not want to do this, but one of the most common career paths there's 2 common career paths for footballers generally. Either you go into coaching, whether that's management, whether that's just coaching kids, whatever.
Really top level, it's nowhere near as much money.
Or no, it's not. Or you go into the media.
Yeah, which again, nowhere near as. And there's only so many slots in the media.
No, but you can't compare it to football. You can't say we're going to make the same money because you're just not going to anywhere.
No, but that's what you're asking him to give up.
I'm not asking him to give up. What I'm saying is you're not getting a chance under me.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to let you potentially go out there and do more damage. But what he's in a good position for the media thing is that having been one of the, I know we've said there's been more, but having one of the few players who's had your career ended by something so spectacular as a heart failure, not a broken leg, not a thing.
Has something to cash in
and
on
also
afterwards. But how long
being a captain of the one-hit wonders Luton, who as many teams that have come up and been like, they came up hard and fast and then they went back down, and Luton might not go back down.
Yeah.
But being part of that team that Luton really were when they came up, it was like, whoa, where did they come from? They weren't even in the Championship for that long. So in fact, did they get 2 back-to-back promotions, League One Championship?
They might have.
But being part of that meteoric rise, even for just 1 season, 2 seasons, and having the niche thing of the heart attack, he's in a fantastic position to be in demand.
Yeah.
And to carve out a career for himself.
Potentially, I don't think it's big a career.
But you've got to cash in. But you've got to cash on in it while it's hot.
Perhaps, maybe. I don't know. It's asking someone to give up a lot. I think we're underestimating the position he's in, the money he'll be earning.
But you can't think about, for me.
No, but I'd like to assume, and this is a massive assumption, that he wouldn't step back on a football pitch unless he was capable of it, because he must have children.
Talking about the livelihood, I want to see him be able to provide for his family and for himself.
Yeah.
But in terms of the money, man, forget money. Your life is at stake. And not just your life in terms of life and death, but if you do something irreparable damage that doesn't kill you but debilitates you, your wife's got to be your carer.
No,
or whatever. So it's like, like I said, I'm not taking that risk. I would think.
No, I think
I can't see him back on the football pitch.
As long as he's been given the go ahead. For me personally, I think that's completely down to him.
I think 2 in a year is just too much.
Maybe.
Unless he can turn around and say, "Oh yeah, it was actually there was this undiagnosed thing. They missed it the first time, but they've got it the second time, and it's relatively easy to maintain. It's relative, even if it is that defibrillator."
I think that's exactly what the situation is.
But if he turns around and says, "Oh, actually,"
and I think that's why they've done the video, is for him to be like, "Look, this is what the situation is.
I can see more of a path." But right now, I wouldn't be giving him a chance.
You can adjust his workload as well. It's famously in the past, there's players that were just turn up at the weekend.
Yeah, they didn't train.
People. So if he's been with them a long time, I can't see that being an issue for them either. As long as he stays fit, there's no reason.
But then it's about the coach. Would you want a player? A lot of coaches, I think nowadays, most coaches wouldn't want one of those players in their team. They'd have to be like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. I think the
situation Luton are in, they would.
Well, no, I'm not saying that's. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying most coaches would want.
Mark Edwards doesn't come across like someone that would stop using
Rob Edwards.
him. Whatever his name is. What did I say?
Mark or Mike?
Oh, whatever.
Either or.
Rob Edwards is a sort of bloke to stop playing him or to not use him when he's made him captain, because he needs to adjust how much he trains. Do you know what I mean?
Like I said,
maybe he's not a long-term option in that situation.
Personally,
I personally think he will be. I don't think he'll ever be a week in, week out player ever again. I think he's going to be the captain, the guy in the back room that plays maybe half a game, maybe comes on as a substitute, maybe even starts the occasional game. But I don't think he's going to be ever present, if that makes sense.
I don't think like I said, I wouldn't be giving him a chance. I would not feel comfortable giving him a chance.
I think as long as I had the medical reassurance and he was comfortable with it, I'd be fine with it.
And that's what it's going to come down to, isn't it? It's going to come down to a personal choice.
I think the reason that is for me is because if I was in his situation, I'd want the decision to be mine, that as long as I was medically capable of doing it and I was happy with the risk, that why shouldn't I be allowed to? Do you know what I mean?
No, but it's not, like I said, the risk is so great that it's not just like you're going...
No, but you're assuming the risk is that great based off of the 2 heart attacks, which is fair, but we've not seen his medical records. We don't know what's wrong with his heart or what's right with his... Do you know what I mean? We don't know how much damage there is.
But for me, I know obviously we're saying here in this situation, the doctors have said actually it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But for me, having managed him already in 2 heart attacks, or 1 heart attack, the second in a year, for me, the potential risk is death. It's not like someone's playing out there with an injury and they've injected themselves and they're going, do you know what, I might do some ligament damage and be out for the next year, but I want to play anyway. It's like, no, if I put you out there, the risk for me, in my worry, is that if I put you out there, it's not going to put you out for a few months. It's not going to end your career. It's going to end your life.
For all we know, Rob Edwards is just a massive sociopath who doesn't give a fuck and wants him. That's just happy to.
He's like, come back and play. He's like, I don't know, my heart's not. He's like, no, come on.
Yeah.
Come and play. We'll do some warm ups.
I know you don't think he should be on a football pitch again, but do you think you'll see him on a football pitch again?
No.
No?
Do you?
I think you'll see him on a pitch again. I just don't think he'll be a week in, week out player ever.
Do you think you'll see him on a pitch at a top level?
I think...
When I say top level, I mean like Premier League, Championship, all that level. Or do you think it'll be more National League?
No, I think...
Maybe League 2.
Even if Luton let him go at the end of the season, I reckon someone would sign him. I reckon he gets
That's a hell of a risk. Like, I know we don't know the medical situation. I know that's been a running theme.
No, but I think you're also underestimating how cutthroat football can be as well. I think if he's willing to and he's healthy enough,
but
there'll definitely be managers
with
out
all
there
due respect to Tom Lockyer, and he's done a lot with Luton and with Wales in his short time with Wales, is he worth taking that risk on? Like, when you look at some of the top players,
he's not expensive. Again, I think you're underestimating how ruthless some managers will be.
Someone like Haaland right now, I get it. Even if there's a big risk there, you're like, yeah, but look at what he brings to the team. With Tom Lockyer, like, does he bring enough in quality? No, but we're talking about cutthroat. This is cutthroat. No. Does he bring enough in quality? Is that your genuine
opinion that if he was Haaland, you'd feel differently about it, personally?
Yeah, I think in terms of what they do for their positions.
Really?
No, I'm not. No, I wouldn't feel differently about it.
Right,
not at all.
That's what I'm asking.
No, okay, I wouldn't feel differently about it. But in terms of their positions,
because what I'm saying, you're Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
Haaland's had 2 heart attacks in the last year. you're not going to play him.
No,
Good,
sorry.
that's fine. That's what I was calling you out because that's how you're making it sound.
But in terms of what they do for their positions, Haaland is a lot better at what he does.
Yeah, but situationally, Tom Lockyer could do a job for someone. Do you know what I mean?
But that's it. Doing a job for someone, there are hundreds of players that can do a job for someone. So why would you not go for one of the other ones that's not had a heart attack in 2 years?
He might be doing a deal.
But do you know what I'm saying? If you're going to be cutthroat, you've got to ask, does he bring enough to the team to make that risk assessment? You know, what's the payoff? I think you'll always find
people willing to do it.
I know you go to a lot of places where people are willing to do a lot of things. I'm well aware of how you spend your evenings.
But I say, fuck it, let him keep playing football. It's up to him.
And I don't think he should come back to a football pitch.
He'll always be, he'll die a martyr. Do you know what I mean? People will remember him well.
Yeah, that'd be grand. But he'll still die.
Yeah, and hopefully would have left a bit more money for his family because he kept playing.
So if he died on the pitch, he'd have to get a statue, wouldn't he?
The thing is, imagine, say he managed to hide the fact he's actually going to die in a few years' time and he's like, I just want to make money until I die.
It's a real money. There's a real financial push running through your thing.
No, but I think you're underestimating, he's, 28? Something like that?
Yeah.
How much longer he needs to have money for? For
the rest of his life. No, I get it.
He's younger than we are, mate.
I get it, but it's not like he's going to have to, when he retires, obviously you'll never be on the same money you're on as a footballer.
No.
But there's still good money available to him.
Hopefully.
There's still good money available to him.
You can't pay your mortgage
with a good
if, buts and maybes.
But with a good agent...
That's if he has a good agent.
There's still money available to him.
Maybe.
Well, look at some of these... Look at the likes of Michael Owen. Get his agent. How's he keep getting? Oh no, to be fair,
he was a Ballon d'Or winner,
and he's a wanker who comes up with some really entertaining things.
Yeah,
but there are some, look at Martin Keown.
Yeah,
he gets himself on European shows.
We've had a good little. I did not expect that much of a debate from it, to be honest.
What did you think? What did you think I would say? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I didn't think it'd be something we spent 20 minutes talking about. I just didn't. I don't know why. For me, it was like a little side story. It was towards the bottom of my notes.
30 seconds, yes or no, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I honestly, I thought we'd get on to Ivan Toney, but we ain't got the time now, so we'll have to talk about Ivan Toney.
Poor him, because I know how much he hates being centre of attention.
Should we make the episode, should we say, we talk about Ivan Toney?
Yeah, Ivan Toney gets a mention. The one where Ivan Toney gets a mention.
Yeah, the Ivan Toney episode. I'm doing that, we're clickbaiting Ivan Toney and we discuss him right at the end.
But we can clickbait Tom Lockyer because we did talk rather considerably about Tom Lockyer.
Yeah, we did. So we could do it. What do you reckon? Which one?
I think Lockyer. I think the Tony one is good, funny, but it's unbelievably misleading in terms of.
I love that though. But fine, I'll do the right thing. And we'll
you
make
do whatever.
I'm
never going to get upset about.
But no, guys, thank you for listening. Let us know in the comments or message us or any of the things. Tweet us, X us, whatever it's called. Let us know what you think. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with?
What's your take on it? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Should he be allowed to play again? Shouldn't he?
Should he be allowed to play? Because it's kind of two questions, really. It's should he be allowed to play?
And would you take him?
And would you play him? Yeah, would you be the one to take him? Would you be the one to play him? Because it's all well and good. It's like, I'm not saying this is how you are, by the way, but it could be that your answer is, I'm happy to see him play again. I wouldn't be the one taking that chance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's how you are. You've quite clearly said if you had the medical reports.
What I would say is my FM history would tell you he'd be gone at the end of the season anyway. When a player's turning 29, that's when they're on the outs for me, unless they're world class, and then they can maybe have another 2 years.
And the really upsetting thing for him, based on your FM record, is he'd be ousted. He might struggle to find. This is the thing. He'd be ousted. He might struggle to find somewhere. He might go somewhere he really doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, fair enough. It's the future. But then a year later, you're not even at the club.
No.
You've moved on.
Yeah.
And he's also been moved on.
Yeah.
And his whole life's been uprooted.
His life's gone to shit.
And you're not even there. You're not even there.
I've fucked off to pastures new, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All because he said he was going to last longer than me. So, fuck him. Guys, we did the socials earlier. They'll be on the screen somewhere here.
I won't lick them this week.
I love it when you lick it. And I like it when you do the socials. But guys, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, Felicia.